You're watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. You can follow Sports Shorts Daily by going to our YouTube page, Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rance, and get our 15-minute weekday video. Welcome back, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Chrysan. I'm not sure what that 3-2-1 was all about, TK, because I think we were on live. But, hey, live stream, you got to love it, baby.
Hey, you got to adjust.
Got to adjust. Let's talk positive. LSU shows big improvement, 41-7 win over Vanderbilt. Tell us about what you saw. And, look, a year ago, LSU gave up over 30 points to the Vanderbilt came out of the game, even though Burrow hung 60 on them and all that kind of stuff. We came out of it going, is this a national championship defense? They only gave up 7 this time around. And this was a dominant performance. Anytime you win by 34, I don't care if it's Vanderbilt, Episcopal, or Parkview, that's a big win.
Well, I misread this game a little bit. I liked Vandy plus the 20 points. Obviously, I was wrong because I read a little too much into Vandy doing well against A&M. Well, A&M's not any good, okay? They don't have a quarterback. Vandy don't have a quarterback, and that's a key, and I just think LSU's supposed to beat Vanderbilt 41-7, even though it was on the road. They went ahead and did it, and I think the fans saw improvements in a lot of different categories, and then most notably, I think it was a boring game. But when you win 41-7, you got to like that. So I think LSU fans should be happy. Missouri comes to town for a late kick this coming Saturday night. But they did show the improvement that I think everyone, including Coach O, wanted to see.
You talk about improvement. I'll tell you, there was a improvement we saw out of Myles Brennan and that offensive line, and it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Who, in your opinion, was the most improved? Was it Myles Brennan or was it the offensive line? I don't know that I'll make an argument for either one.
Well, I think Myles Brennan, because most people are going to watch the quarterback and not offensive line. If you're a former offensive lineman, you probably pay more attention to that. But I think Brennan did that game 1 to game 2 improvement, maybe a few less butterflies when he ran out of the field against Vanderbilt. And I think his confidence may have grown a little bit. He still made a handful of mistakes, but Ronnie, that's going to happen. It's not a quarterback in football this weekend, high school, college, or pro that didn't make a mistake or two. Okay, but can you overcome mistakes? Can you continue to improve? And, I think we saw that with Myles Brennan. He'd probably be the first to tell you that the line helped him with that. And the offensive line's got a lot of pride. That's a unit that, is stepping in some big shoes from last year's offensive line. So I'm going to give a slight edge to Brennan in the most improved, but don't go lightly on the offensive line who did the job that they had to do, albeit against Vanderbilt. Ronnie, I don't think Vanderbilt's going to win any football games this year. Maybe
I think you're right.
They play Missouri, that's not a good football team. That quarterback they got might be good one day. He's just not good right now.
I thought that Myles Brennan improved, but I thought that the improvement from a week ago to this week clearly is on the offensive line. They were more dominant. LSU put up almost 500 yards of offense. Last week against Mississippi State, Myles Brennan threw for over 300 yards. He threw multiple touchdowns. This time against Vanderbilt, he threw for over 300 yards, threw 4 touchdowns. So numbers-wise, you didn't see this drastic, improvement from Myles Brennan. You did see a little bit more decisiveness. I thought things got better. Again, took them about a quarter or so to really get going. But the offensive line was dominant. Now, how much of that is that Vanderbilt defensive line and all that's not very good? And LSU's got, a much better talent. Absolutely. But the offensive line was dominant in the run game. You had a 100-yard rusher. You had a 300-yard passer. And quite frankly, that's your goal going into every game. So I give the improvement from offensive line. Last week against Mississippi State, Myles Brennan was running for his life a lot of the time. Some of it his own fault, some of it the O-line. So a slight lean, if you will, to the offensive line.
Here's something to watch with Myles Brennan that he did against Vanderbilt that he didn't do against Mississippi State. And I'm no quarterback guru, I promise you, but I know a little something about throwing a baseball and the mechanics of throwing. When he steps into that throw, when any quarterback squares up his shoulders, squares up his hips, and steps into that throw, I don't care if it's out in the flat, if it's a crossing route, if he's trying to throw the ball deep, the results are better. It's no different than if you pitched and you step towards first base, the results aren't going to be good. You got to get everything going to the plate in baseball. Well, in football, I think you got to get everything going to your target, your receiver, no matter where he's at on the field. And sometimes you don't have time because people are trying to tear your head off. A pitcher doesn't have to go against the rush. But I thought Brennan didn't look at the rush as much. He stepped into some throws, and I think that made a difference. And the fact that John Emory, who I thought was really good coming out of Destrehan, rushed for 103 yards on only 12 carries. That's going to make the passing game better. Because remember, as good as Burrow was, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did a lot of damage to defenses last year with his ability to run the football and the others who carried it. So it's almost a hand in hand. Brennan, offensive line, John Emory getting the job done when Curry was out with some kind of injury. You put it all together and you score 41. You should score 41 or more against Vanderbilt, but you did it, and now you continue to improve against a bad Missouri team Saturday night.
Well, you talk about John Emory. Emory was a guy, and again, it's unfair, right, nowadays where when you're a top 10 player in the country at your position, or in Emory's case, depending on the poll, he was a top 3 running back in America coming out of Destrehan High School. And I remember talking to Joel Davis on Sports Shorts Radio, who saw him play a little bit, wasn't overly impressed from a standpoint of when you're talking about the greatest running back in the country, you expect something visually. And he thought he was a good running back and a really good running back, and obviously an SEC running back. But he was always critical from a standpoint of, I don't know, best running back in America. I don't know. We saw others. We saw Price. We saw Curry get their opportunity. Obviously, John Emory, it took him a year. I mean, and that's the thing that's unfair is that we expect guys nowadays, if you're a top 5 player in the country or a receiver, a quarterback, that you hit the ground running, that you get to college and that you're just phenomenal. And look, and we know that just doesn't always happen to everybody. It hardly happens to anybody. You need that. One, nobody wants to redshirt. That's an insult. So you can't redshirt. So you play very little, hardly at all. You're homesick. You're learning a new system. You're battling against much better talent than you've ever played in your life. It takes a little bit of adjustment. In Emory's case, it took a year. And not that he was bad last year, but he didn't get many opportunities and had a lot of other great. It took him a year. He looks like he fits this offense the way they want to play it this year perfectly. Average over 8 yards a carry and gives you something different than what you get out of Chris Curry, which is the more physical back.
Well, go back to 2018. Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't exactly light it up.
Sure.
He did well, but he was in that learning process you were just talking about. As you were talking, I'm thinking, but the only guy I can think of at LSU that was great as a freshman was Kevin Falk. I mean, he stepped right in.
Or Dalton Hilliard. I'll go way back with the Dalton Hilliard machine.
Go back to Dalton, okay?
Right.
So them too. And there's been a lot of great running backs at LSU. Those are 2 of the best who were good on day one. Here's Emory. Again, his coach at Destrehan told me years ago, he said, this guy can go. Anything he does won't surprise me. And so, he had a good game. Okay, we'll see what he follows it up with. But I think if you're the offensive line now, you're like, hey, we got Emory. He made a statement. We got Brennan who improved. We got to improve the line as a unit, tight ends. I mean, I think collectively they took a great step in the win over Vanderbilt.
Tommy Christ and Ronnie Ranch joining you on Sports Shorts Daily. TK coming to you live from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Tremonti's, by the way, I had some Tremonti's over the weekend. I picked up a bunch of stuff, brought it to Lafayette for my daughter Madison's 21st birthday. It was phenomenal. Tell the folks about Tremonti's, Tommy.
Well, they got a big meat sale right now through this Wednesday evening. A whole ribeye loin, Chairman's Reserve, huge savings on that. They want to get you ready for the Saturday night LSU game, the catering, the home gating, the tailgate packages. And Ronnie, right now, you saw it if you in there, they got the biggest pumpkin I've ever seen in my life on display at Tremonti's. And if you can guess the weight correctly, you win a free turkey at Thanksgiving, fried, rotisserie, smoked, whatever you want. And they do a great job with the turkeys. But Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, follow them on Instagram, follow them on Facebook. They got lunch specials. Good meat ain't cheap. Cheap meat ain't good. You're going to get some great stuff at Tremonti's. I want people to check that out. Facebook and Instagram. The meat sale, there's always something going on. The seafood, the wine, the spirits. I mean, they got it going on. The sausage is great. I had some Cajun pork sausage the other day from Tremonti's that I cooked up. I got a box of the hamburgers that are world famous. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Facebook and Instagram. And also they're big supporters of the womens.org. Bust Breast Cancer Program, Vote for Their Bra. All that info is at Facebook and Instagram. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, where good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what's good. The AP poll came out, and and Clemson, once again, number one in the country. Not really a surprise. They'll probably stay that way. You see Clemson number one, Bama number two, Georgia 3, Florida 4. 3 of the top 4 spots are the SEC. Not really a surprise. You don't have Pac-12 playing. You don't have Big Ten playing yet, although Ohio State is ranked number 6, and I expect that, they'll be in there. LSU comes in 17th. The Ragin Cajuns and UL Lafayette, they stay undefeated. Well, they didn't play this week. They're supposed to play. Their game was supposed to be this coming Wednesday, so 2 nights from today against Appalachian State. That game got postponed to December due to some COVID issues over at Appalachian State. That's the biggest game of the Sun Belt this year. It's a shame Ragin Cajuns can't play them right now because they're on fire. But your reaction to the polls, obviously this is big. Oklahoma falls out of the poll. They're not even in the top 25. Central Florida not in the top 25. Florida State not in the top 25. Mississippi State, after their big win against LSU, is a top 20 ranked team. They lose to Arkansas. Bam, they're out of the poll. Some shakeups galore. And how about this? Bama, 201 weeks in a row that they're in the poll. They're going to pass. They're top 4 all time. I'm looking at a note here that I made. Florida State had a run where they were in like 200 and something times, and Florida had a run during the Spurrier days where they were ranked, I think, a little over 203 times or 4 times. Who is the college team that holds the record, Tommy, for longest active streak in the top 24? The longest streak in the top 24, not active, just all time. Longest poll rankings in the top 25. Which college?
Wow, that's a tough question there. You're catching me here. Give me a hint if it was before the 70s.
It might have been, no, it included the 70s. It probably included the 70s, I would think. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm going to go Oklahoma.
Not bad. Same conference, Nebraska. So Nebraska holds the record for longest streak in the top 25, 348 weeks. Wow. 348 polls in a row. They were ranked in the top 25. Bama currently is 201. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and chances are, if Alabama breaks the streak of Nebraska, 348 weeks, Nick Saban probably won't be there as coach. He'll probably retire before that happens, I would think. So LSU ranked 17th, about where you expect them to be?
Yeah, I think that's fair right now. I mean, it was a road win against Vandy, but Vandy's Vandy. They're going to win 2 or 1 or no games this year. Happy to see the Ragin Cajuns back in there.
I think none or 1.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be nice. Ragin Cajuns back in there, didn't get to play, as you pointed out, Ronnie. But, Billy Napier's a heck of a football coach, and he's done some really good things over there in Lafayette. I wish the fans would support them a little bit more, and we'll see how they can keep going. They got that win over Iowa State, then Iowa State did poorly, then Iowa State did good, made that win look a little better. So keep an eye on them Ragin Cajuns. You're right, though. It's either them or App State that are going to win the Sun Belt, and obviously I'd love to see the Cajuns win it.
A couple of things that jumped off at you in this week, and that was the fact that you had the big win by Arkansas over Mississippi State. Mississippi State goes and looks like they are going to just be the splash of the SEC. Costello throws for over 600 yards. They beat LSU in Tiger Stadium. They're the talk of the town. And then Arkansas, who has not won a game since 2017 in the SEC, 20 games in a row in conference play, they knock off Mississippi State. And I think the thing that shocked me and everybody the most is they only scored 14 points, talking about the Bulldogs. Felipe Franks, who was supposed to come to LSU, went to Florida, transferred to Arkansas. Nobody cared about him in Florida that he left. He goes up there and leads Arkansas to a 21-14 victory over Mississippi State. And just like that, Bulldogs out of the top 25. But the big question that I have for you, TK, is the quarterback for the Bulldogs, who we all fell in love with last week. He threw for over 600 yards. We all know his story. Costello, is he a first-round pick in your mind? I know we've seen over 6,000 yards at Stanford, 49 touchdowns, over 600 yards against LSU, got hit, got up, made mistakes, came back. Didn't obviously for Arkansas, a much better job. What do you think?
I don't know if he's mobile enough to be a first-round pick. We know how the running backs, Mahomes and Russell Wilson and these guys like to run a route. I don't know if he brings as much of that to the table. He's got the arm. I believe he's got the intelligence. He went to Stanford. That's a good mark right there for the intelligence thing. I think he's close to being a first-round pick. Right now, I'd say no. I'd say that here first week of October, but he could prove me wrong going forward, and he's going to get a test. I mean, the SEC West, Bama's 2-0, everybody else is 1-1. So it's going to be a heck of a ride. And I think Costello's play in the next 8 SEC games will determine if he's a number one pick. But to answer your question, I don't think he is today.
I think he is a first-round pick. I think because we overvalue quarterbacks, and look, we've seen so many surprises of guys that back in the day. I mean, Tim Tebow was a first-round pick. Johnny Manziel was a first-round pick. Now we're talking about Heisman Trophy winners, and I get that. Okay, but physically, Costello looks the part. He's got the height, he's got the arm, he's got the size. Yes, he's not a scrambler, but nobody would consider Joe Burrow a scrambler. Nobody would consider Jones with the Giants a scrambler. So, he's athletic enough. And granted, he can't, he's got to have a bounce back game, and he's got to, but I don't think you throw for over 600 yards against LSU's defense, which has future NFL talent on there, in Tiger Stadium on the road in your first game of the SEC, and that's a fluke. We're going to see him put up big numbers this year.
Well, you make a great point, okay? And I'm just answering the question directly that I don't think he is this week. But I could be wrong, you could be right. And certainly the talent is there, the arm, the big arm, and the intelligence. That's a key. And so we'll see. That'll be an interesting story to follow. Plus, Mike Leach has always had quarterbacks who have big offensive numbers, both individually and the offensive team. Gardner Minshew, who heard of him when he was at Washington State? Raise your hand if you did. Not many of you are raising your hand, okay? And now he's an NFL quarterback, and I would say Costello's ahead of him, just to the amateur eye that I have for quarterbacks. So it'll be fun to watch that. That'll be one of the many storylines in the next couple of months in the Southeastern Conference.
All right, good news for the Saints fans. By the way, Tommy, we're not going to talk about your picks on Talking Sports with TK, the podcast this week. Holy cow. If you can tell us about the podcast, Tommy, if you want, but I mean, I'm telling you, I'm going to be eating Vienna sausages all week, thanks to you and your buddies, because y'all were horrible this week picking games.
We were really, really bad, okay? And that happens. But look, that's the key. We tell you when we're bad. If we do good, we tell you. We do poorly. Anthony and I and Trey had all horrible college records. Trey did okay in the NFL, but talking about college, we were absolutely bad, which just means we can only get better. But look, we've been doing this a long time, okay? It's Vienna sausage this week. It might be a Tremonti's ribeye next week.
Oh man, I took a bath this week, not only with you, but even on the ones that I went out on a limb myself. I mean, my bookie, it's bad when your bookie calls you and says, "Hey, you want to get those bets in before the kickoff?" I mean, that's when you know you're on fire, right? But I did not bet this game, and naturally, I don't usually bet LSU or Saints unless I just have a super strong reaction. But first 5 minutes of this game, Saints were down 14-0, and I mean, my dad, I was in Lafayette watching with my father, Gus Rance, who is just a lifelong Saints fan, grew up in New Orleans, and I was worried for his health. I was concerned. We made it through COVID. He's 71 years old, made it through COVID, and I was worried for him. But I thought he was going to have a heart attack. the Saints become only the fourth team in NFL history to overcome a 14-point deficit in the first half and win and lead by 14 at halftime. I mean, that is unbelievable. It happened back in 2011 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It happened in the 60s with the Vikings. There was one other time in the 80s. Like, that's it. Four times in the history of NFL football since Elias Sports has been keeping their numbers that this happened. So it was a record day for the Saints. They had to hang on at the end, but Drew Brees finally looked like Drew Brees. His numbers: 19 for 25, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had the interception on the first throw, wasn't his fault. Was tipped at the line of scrimmage, but hey. I don't think the Saints are fixed, but this was a big win, a much-needed win. It was their first 2-game losing streak in 3 years.
Well, I think a lot of Saints fans were shaking their head, including your dad, when it was 14-0. But NFL, you got to play 60 minutes, and the way teams can score so quickly, and it's an offensive-driven league, it's a passing game-driven league. 14 points is not what it was 20, 25 years ago, when somebody could get the ball and just take the air out the ball and run the clock. So I think you give Saints credit. It's hard to win an NFL game, even if you're playing Detroit, whoever you're playing. It's very hard to win an NFL game. The Saints get a win on the road, come home next week for a Monday night contest. I hope they let the fans in. I know the commissioner sent the mayor an email and she didn't like that. But I mean, come on. But that's another topic. Big win for the Saints, overcoming the deficit. They had a lot of guys that didn't play. A lot of regulars were out of the lineup. Brees stepped up, took the bull by the horns, got the job done. The rest of the Saints played well. And, Chargers coming to town, they're no great shakes, so maybe they can get another win on Monday Night TV next week, get the extra day to get prepared, heal up a few injuries. So huge win for the Saints. And we talked about it before the game. The Saints winning or losing could really put them on a good path or a poor path for the rest of the season or the middle stretch run here. We're a quarter of the way through the NFL season. That's mind-boggling. But we'll see if the first quarter of the season's in the book for the Saints. Maybe this road comeback win against the Lions can propel them into a good next 4-game stretch.
Well, the Saints have the Monday Night Football game coming up against the Los Angeles Chargers. So even though it's been a couple of years, what's that?
They moved.
But I'll tell you what, Herbert looked pretty good. Obviously, in a loss against Tampa Bay, Tom Brady threw 5 touchdowns. That's the next opponent for the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Is in fact the San Diego Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers. And granted, I don't think a rookie quarterback is going to lead many teams to the promised land or the playoffs, but Herbert, through the first couple of games this year that he's played, Tommy, has looked deserving of a first-round pick.
He's a big guy, big arm, strong, intelligent, and you gotta, he's working hard. He kind of got thrown into the position. Coaches said, "Hey, we're going to hang our hat on you. Here's the keys to the car." And so far, he has looked very good. And, the other thing about these rookie quarterbacks and these first-round draft choices, they're on the fast track. They got to progress quickly. Jordan Love's with the Packers. Nobody even knows he's on the team right now. Okay, so he's got a easier path to get better. These other guys that are getting put on the field, Joe Burrow and Herbert, all these guys, they got to make improvement week to week, not month to month. And I think he's done that out there with the Chargers.
Make sure you like and share our video, please. Sports Shorts Daily. That's how we get the word out. We're going to each and every Monday through Friday, Sports Shorts Daily for 15 to 30 minutes right here on the Facebook page for Sports Shorts. So make sure you like and share our video. Tommy Chrysan, of course, with Tremonti's here with Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Also, you can follow him on the Talking Sports podcast. And what else you got to plug, Tommy?
Quick shout out for Sign Express putting the banner together right behind me here. They did a great job. Told them I needed it in a couple of days. They were very busy. They pushed it out. Your complete sign source, Sign Express on Airline, right near Airline in Siegen. Look them up, Sign Express. Go see Paul. Tell him Mike Tremonti or Tommy Chrysan sent you in there. They did a great job with this banner for Talking Sports with TK and Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
I'll tell you what, for you Saints fans out there, for you golfers out there, we got a great event coming up 2 weeks from today, October 18th and 19th. It's the pre-party the night before on the rooftop at LeBear's Casino in Baton Rouge, but it's the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Golf Classic. We're going to have some celeb golfers like Todd Walker and Ben McDonald, and we'll have New Orleans Saint former kicker Garrett Hartley will be there, and many, many others. That's all going to be October 18th and 19th at LeBear's Casino. That's Sunday night party. Every golfer gets to bring a guest, a wife, a buddy, whatever, girlfriend. And then Monday, the 19th, is golf, 10 a.m. at University Club Golf Course. Going to be a lot of fun. So for more info, go to lasportshall.com, lasportshall.com. Individual golfers, teams available as well. And hope to see you there and come support the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. He's Tommy Christ, and I'm Ronnie Rance. We'll see you tomorrow for another edition of Sports Shorts Daily, presented by our friends over at LeBear's Hotel and Casino in Baton Rouge.
Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. Don't forget to follow Sports Shorts on Facebook, Twitter at sports_shorts, and check us out on Saturday mornings from 10 to noon at Sports Shorts Radio on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge.